Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's the second day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Yesterday was first fruits. Praise Yah. And we're going to be doing another reading here for Feast of Unleavened Bread. We're going to start off with a reading today in Leviticus 22, verses 26 to Leviticus 23:44. And Yahweh said to Moses, when a calf or a lamb or goat is born, it must be left with his mother for 7 days. From the 8th day on, it will be acceptable as a special gift to Yahweh. But you must not slaughter a mother animal and her offspring on the same day, whether from the herd or the flock. When you bring a thanksgiving offering to Yahweh, sacrifice it properly, so you will be accepted. Eat the entire sacrificial lamb on the day it is presented to you. Do not leave any of it until the morning. I am Yahweh. You must faithfully keep all my commands by putting them into practice. For I am Yahweh. Do not bring shame on my holy name, for I will display my holiness among the people Israel. I am Yahweh who makes you holy. It was I who rescued you from the land of Egypt, that I might be your Elohim. I am Yahweh. The appointed festivals. Verse 23, verse 1. Chapter 23, verse 1. Yahweh said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. These are Yahweh's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as official days for a holy assembly. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but on the 7th day it is a Sabbath and a complete rest, an official day for a holy assembly. It is Yahweh's Sabbath day and must be observed wherever you live. In addition to this Sabbath, these are Yahweh's appointed festivals, the official days for holy assembly that are to be celebrated at the proper times each year. The Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Yahweh's Passover begins at sundown on the 14th day of the first month. On the next day, the 15th day of the month, you must begin to celebrate the Festival of Unleavened Bread. This festival to Yahweh continues for 7 days. And during that time, the bread you eat must be made without yeast. On the first day of the festival, all the people must stop their ordinary work and observe an official day for a holy assembly. For 7 days, you must present special gifts to Yahweh. On the 7th day, the people must again stop all their ordinary work to observe an official day for a holy assembly. Then Yahweh said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people Israel. When you enter the land I am giving you, and you harvest its first crops, bring a priest a bundle of grain from the first cutting of your grain harvest. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest will lift up before Yahweh, so it may be accepted on your behalf. On the same day, you must sacrifice a 1-year-old male lamb with no defects as a burnt offering to Yahweh. With it, you must present a grain offering consisting of 4 quarts of choice flour, moistened with olive oil, and it will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. You must also offer 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. Do not eat any bread or roasted grain, fresh kernels on that day, until you bring this offering to Yahweh. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation. And that was the celebration of the first harvest. Then we see the festival of harvest. Verse 15. From the day after the Sabbath, the day you bring the bundle of grain to be lifted up as a special offering, count 7 full weeks. Keep counting until the day after the 7th Sabbath, 50 days later. Then present an offering of a new grain to Yahweh. From wherever you live, bring 2 loaves of bread to be lifted up before Yahweh as a special offering. Make these loaves from 4 quarts of choice flour and bake them with yeast. They will be an offering to Yahweh, the first of your crops. Along with the bread, present 7 1-year-old male lambs with no defects, 1 young bull, and 2 rams as burnt offerings to the Creator. This burnt offering, together with the grain offerings and liquid offerings, will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. Then you must offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and the 2-year-old male lambs as a peace offering. The priest will lift up the 2 lambs and the special offering to Yahweh together, with loaves representing the first of your crops. These offerings, which are holy to Yahweh belong to the priest. That same day you will be proclaimed an official day for a holy assembly, a day on which you do no ordinary work. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation, wherever you live. When you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain alone along the edges of your fields, and do not pick up what the harvest drop. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners among you. I am Yahweh. The Festival of Trumpets. Yahweh said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. On the first day of the appointed month in early autumn, you are to observe a day of complete rest. It will be an official day for a holy assembly, a day commemorated with loud blast of a trumpet. You must do no ordinary work on that day. Instead, you are to present gifts to Yahweh. The Day of Atonement. Then Yahweh said to Moses, be careful to celebrate the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of that same month. 9 days after the Festival of Trumpets, you must observe it as an official day for a holy assembly. A day to deny yourselves and present special gifts to Yahweh. Do no work that entire day because it is the Day of Atonement, when offerings and purification are made for you, making you right with Yahweh your Elohim. All who do not deny themselves that day will be cut off from Yahweh's people. And I will destroy anyone among you who does any work on that day. You must not work or do any work at all. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. This will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you. And on that day, you must deny yourselves. This day of rest will begin at sundown on the 9th of the month and extend until sundown on the 10th of the month. And the Festival of Shelters. And Yahweh said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Begin celebrating the Festival of Shelters on the 15th day of the appointed month, 5 days after the Day of Atonement. This festival to Yahweh will last for 7 days. On the first day of the festival, you must proclaim an official day for a holy assembly, when you do no ordinary work. For 7 days, you must present special gifts to Yahweh. The 8th day is another holy day, which you present your special gifts to Yahweh. This will be a solemn occasion, and no ordinary work may be done on that day. These are Yahweh's appointed festivals. Celebrate them each year as an official days for a holy assembly by presenting special gifts to Yahweh, burnt offerings, grain offerings, sacrifices, and liquid offerings, each on its proper day. These festivals must be observed in addition to Yahweh's regular Sabbath days, and offerings in addition into your personal gifts. The offerings you give to fulfill your vows, and the voluntary offerings you present to Yahweh. Remember that 7-day festival to Yahweh. The Festival of Shelters begins on the 15th day of the appointed month, after you have harvested all the produce in the land. The first day and the 8th day of the festival will be days of complete rest. On the first day, gather branches from magnificent trees, palm fronds brought from leafy trees, and willows that grow by the streams. Then celebrate with joy before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. You must observe this festival to Yahweh for 7 days every year. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed in the appointed month from generation to generation. For 7 days, you must live outside in shelters. All native-born Israelites must live in shelters. This will remind each new generation of Israel that made their ancestors live in shelters that I may live in shelters when I rescued them from the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So Moses gave the Israelites these instructions regarding the annual festivals to Yahweh. The next thing we're reading is 2 Kings 23, verses 1 to 9. Josiah's religious reforms. Then the king summoned all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the temple of Yahweh with all the people of Judah and Jerusalem, along with the priests and the prophets and all the people from the least to the greatest. The king read to them the entire book of the covenant that had been found in Yahweh's temple. The king took his place of authority beside the pillar and renewed the covenant in Yahweh's presence. He pledged to obey to Yahweh by keeping all his commands, laws, and decrees with all his heart and soul. In this way, he confirmed all the terms of the covenant, that which were written in the scroll, and all the people pledged themselves to the covenant. Verse 4. Then the king instructed Hilkiah, the high priest and the priest of the second rank, and the temple gatekeepers to remove from Yahweh's temple all the articles that were used to worship Baal, Asherah, and the powers of the heavens. The king had all these things burned outside Jerusalem on terraces of the Kidron Valley, and he carried the ashes away to Bethel. He did away with the idolatrous priests who had been appointed by the previous king of Judah, for they had offered sacrifices at the pagan shrines throughout Judah, and even in the vicinity of Jerusalem. They have also offered sacrifices to Baal and to the sun, the moon, and the constellations, and to all the powers of the heavens. The king removed the Asherah pole from Yahweh's temple and took it outside of Jerusalem to the Kidron Valley, where he burned it. Then he ground up the ash to the pole and dust and threw it over the graves of the people. Verse 7. He also tore down the living quarters of the male and female shrine prostitutes that were inside the temple of Yahweh, where women wore coverings for the wove coverings for the Asherah pole. Josiah brought Jerusalem all the priests who were living in other towns of Judah. He also defiled the pagan shrines where they had offered sacrifices, all the way from Geba to Beersheba. He destroyed the shrines at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of Jerusalem. The gate was located to the left of the city gates as one of the entries to the city. The priests who had served at the pagan shrines were not allowed to serve at Yahweh's altar in Jerusalem, but they were allowed to eat unleavened bread with the other priests. And then another reading is verses 21 to 25, 2 Kings 21 to 25. So let's see. So 2 Kings, verse 23, 21, 25. Kings 23, 21 to 25. Josiah celebrates the Passover. King Josiah then issued this order over all the people. You must celebrate Passover to Yahweh your Elohim as required in the book of the covenant. There had not been a Passover celebration like that since the time when the judges ruled in Israel, nor throughout all the ages of the kings of Israel and Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah's reign, this Passover was celebrated to Yahweh in Jerusalem. Josiah got rid of the mediums and the psychics, the household gods and the idols, and every other kind of detestable practice, both in Jerusalem and throughout the land of Judah. He did this in obedience to the laws written in a scroll that Hilkiah the priest had found in Yahweh's temple. Never before had there been a king like Josiah, who turned to Yahweh with all his heart and soul and strength, obeying all the laws of Moses. And there has never been a king like him since. Wow. That's powerful. Okay, so now we have another reading of day 2, talking about Yeshua and what Yeshua did for us in this next reading. Here we go. Let me get a little marker here. Yeshua curses the fig tree. Every morning, early in the morning, as he was, and this is not, there are some scriptures in here, but we're just leading up to Yeshua's death and what had happened and about the life of Yeshua here. Early in the morning, as he was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never fruit again." Immediately the fig tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were amazed. "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" they asked. Yeshua replied, "I tell you the truth. If you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but you can say to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask in prayer." The parable of the wedding feast. Yeshua spoke to them again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who has prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they all refused to come. Then he sent some more servants and said, tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened calves have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged, and he sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not desire to come or deserve to come. Go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed there was a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. Friend, he asked, how did you get here without wedding clothes? The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many invited, but few are chosen. Every day he was teaching at the temple, but the chief priest and the teachers of the law of Yahweh and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. Yet they could not find any way to do it because all the people hung on his words. Then the Jewish people demanded of him, what miraculous sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all of this? And Yeshua answered them, destroy this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days. The Jewish people replied, it has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days? But the temple he had spoken of was his body. And after he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed in Scripture and the words that Yeshua had spoken. Yeshua warns the people. Yeshua left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came to him and called his attention to the buildings. Do you see all of these things, he asked? I tell you the truth. Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down from the lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and heaven bodies will be shaken. And at that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and a great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four corners of the winds of the end of the heavens and the heavens, from one end of the heavens to the other. That loud trumpet call. Hallelujah. Then Yeshua said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the Torah and the Pharisees in Moses' seat, so you must obey and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on the man's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Woe to you, teachers of the Torah and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the kingdom of heaven in man's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the Torah and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over land and sea without a single convert. And when he becomes one, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. And so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Bechariah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, all this will come upon this generation. Oh, Yeshua mourns his people. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you have killed the prophets and stoned those who sent you. How often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers his chicks under her wings. But you were not willing. Look, your house is left to your desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. Yeshua anointed a second time. Now the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were only 2 days away, and the chief priest and the teachers of the law were looking for some way to arrest Yeshua and kill him. But not during the feast, they said, or the people may not. But not during the feast, they said, or the people may riot. While he was in Bethany, reclining to the table in the home of a man known as Simon, the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying the indignity to one another. While this waste of perfume, it could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. Leave her alone, said Yeshua. Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. And then Judas plots betrayal. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priest and asked, what are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you? So they counted out for him 30 silver coins. From then on, Judah watched for an opportunity to hand him over. But Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. That was the second reading here of the Feast of Unleavened Bread for this day. This is a special season for everyone. So please join me in these readings each day. And remember, it's a 7-day feast, so it just doesn't end after the Passover meal. So keep doing it. All right, everybody. Have a blessed day today. Yahweh be with you all, and shalom, shalom.